This is a story about how I said my big yes in coming to faith. It's not like my parents had a conversation with me about drugs. At first, I was just like, I don't want to be a part of it because it just didn't feel right.
So how much were you really using?
Initially, it was a Dove sack. My worst time was an 8-ball per night.
Okay, now, were you happy?
No, I was empty inside. I got tired of doing all these rituals, and I just kind of put this book down where you have to write these mantras and stuff, and I put the book down. And I essentially just closed my eyes and I said, God, if you are who you are, or if you are true, if there's really a God, right? I just want to know the truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the Pillay Place, our home where we'll be talking about family, finance, and faith. Maybe not in that order, but we're excited to have you here. It's our very first episode, and a lot of you guys might know us from a long time ago, and I think it might be kind of fun to dig up some of our past and have you hear our story on how a simple yes really transformed our lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, welcome everybody, and what are we talking about today? I'm Rahul, by the way, and this is my wife, Van.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, babe, I think we're going to dig up your past, not mine.
Yes.
Today.
How convenient. Yep.
It's always more fun when it's you.
Yeah. I'm
So-
in the hot seat.
Where do you want to begin?
I guess we could start from the beginning. Yeah, so this is a story about how I said my big yes in coming to faith. And so just a little background on me. I grew up in Fiji Islands, and I was 15 when I first moved to the U.S. I was raised as a Hindu, and my mom and my dad even did the best that they could to raise me. When I first came here, I had, first of all, a lot of culture shock, coming from at the time, you may think it was a third world country. I mean, it was developing third world country, but it was much more different. Like my first TV was at the age of 15, right? So we had a television at home, but there was no like TV. There was no channels until I turned 15. So long story short is I came to US and I fell into the wrong crowd by the time I was probably turning 17.
Okay, so while kind of planning for this podcast, I realized there's probably a lot of you that I don't know, especially, when you were younger.
Yeah.
How you said 17. So what happened at 17?
Yeah, so I was hanging out with a few friends, all ages. So some of them were 30, some of them were 35, and some of them were probably in their 20s. I was the youngest one in that crowd. And they used to do a lot of things that was not necessarily normal, right? One of them being cocaine, drugs. And at first I was just like, I don't want to be a part of it because it just didn't feel right. It's not like my parents had a conversation with me about drugs. It just didn't feel like it's something that I need to do. And, normally things that are done in open seem to be a lot better than the things that are done behind closed doors or in the dark. So this is something they did in the dark quite a bit. And they tried to peer pressure me. I wasn't really falling for it in the beginning. But then they stopped hanging out with me, so I wanted to be cool. Long story short is, it seemed like the crowd that I was hanging out with at the time, or the crowd that I was attracted to, kept doing this. So I tried when I was 16 and a half, almost 17, and trying felt good. So I kept hanging out with more of these guys, and I tried more and more and more. By the time I was probably 18 and a half, it was no longer trying. It was a habit.
So how much were you really using?
It's hard to say. I mean, if you have a drug past, you will know some of the terminology that comes with it, right? Initially, it was a dove sack, which means $20, and you get a certain amount grams wise. I don't remember what those grams are, but my worst, as I kept increasing my intake, my worst time was I was doing an 8-ball per night, which is 3.5 grams, I believe, is an 8-ball. It's like this much, and it would last me all night. And then by the time morning came, and this was really in my 20s. By the time morning came, and I was drinking too heavily at the time, so it was cocaine and alcohol. And by the time morning came, I could not handle soberness, so I would actually go get more.
And when we met, did you stop or?
Yeah. So when we met, so the story goes as this, right? So I to feed my habits, to be able to sustain my lifestyle, I took on a sales job, right? And honestly, I lied to myself. I said I'm taking the sales job to support my mom, but frankly, I wasn't supporting my mom. My mom was struggling, and she'll probably tell you if you asked her today that she supported me most of my life, right? And there's probably a lot of hurt that comes from doing that, because I was in my 20s getting supported by my mom. But I took a sales job. It was well paying. I learned. I was an introvert, so it was really hard for me to talk to anybody or even have a face-to-face conversation. And but a good friend of mine told me to read How to Win Friends and Influence People. So it was a great book that I read in the beginning, and I learned how to make friends. And that's what I did for sales. And I became a really good salesman. And that's what supported my habits. But I was a good salesman, so it wasn't just my habits, it was also my lifestyle. So I bought a house, I had a car, those things. So I was able to sustain myself until the '08 crisis happened, housing crisis. And sales was down because unemployment was high. And I had to realize that I just came to a realization that there's no way I can sustain my habits or my lifestyle. So I quit the lifestyle and I reduced the habit, but it frankly wasn't working. And by this time, it was impacting my health.
How was it, like from 17 to 20 something, and like before we met? Did you see how did you think it was going to last this long? Did you try to quit? Did you try to stop? Or did you were just focus on sustaining this lifestyle? And
that's a really good question. As a sane person, because you get to moments where you look at yourself, right? Because when you become sober, you have this little check where it's like a guilt, and you're like, man, that's what I did last weekend for 3 days was just not good for me. It's just not, I feel crappy. I look horrible. I had gained a lot of weight at that time. I wasn't feeling healthy. And I love to think. So today, like being sober and thinking is so much more fun versus back then. I couldn't really think. So I think I'm answering your question. Sorry, what did you ask?
I asked at that time if you thought it was a problem.
Yeah, so when I was sane, I would think something's wrong with it. But when I was in it or in the temptation of going and getting some, I was like, I'm gonna be uber wealthy and I'll be able to do this.
You're gonna be wealthy and continue doing this.
Yes, there was a pride behind it.
Okay, now, were you happy?
No, I was empty inside, right?
Okay.
So because when sanity came, and then as I started turning like 26, 27, right when that crisis happened, when I lost everything, and some say you hit your rock bottom, I probably was at that point, right?
Is that when we met?
We met after that. But that was leading up to it, because I went back to college, right? But before college, there was this one time where I was super high. And actually, I remember this happening even after college. But like this, there was this time where I was super high, and it seemed like I had done so much where I couldn't even make sense of anything. There was these stuff that I was looking in the room, like there was these shadows that looked like images, and I felt like I was hallucinating. And then 4 hours later, I woke up with a headache, and I realized that I fell on the floor. And it happened a couple of times, and it almost made me feel like, okay, either I'm overdosing or drinking to the point of blackout, and this is going to kill me, is the thought that I had.
And then what did you do afterwards?
Well, the amazing thing was, I was still practicing Hinduism at the time.
What is practicing Hinduism?
So Hinduism is a religion that believes in many gods. Okay, and Hindus, they typically essentially there's these stories. I don't really understand the full theology, or the stories behind it, but the biggest piece is they have many gods, and they typically believe in all gods, right? And they are accepting of all gods. And you approach each god based on your works. You do your mantras. You do your things that helps you reach your God, essentially.
And when you were practicing those rituals and things, what did you feel anything inside? Did it work to help you feel better?
A little bit, but now that I know who God really is, I know that the human mind and just a human being itself has an ability to bring a certain amount of peace to themselves, right? Like I can positively think and get through life really well, right? And a lot of people do that today, and it's working for them, and that's great. So that's fine, and that's where and there were times where it felt great. I used to go to temples with my mom, do the rituals and things like that. So long story short is I was still practicing, right? And then I met you, right? And you were the angel sent from above. I say that in many stories. But the biggest thing was you saw something in me that I never saw in myself, right? And I think that's probably a mother's view as well, right? Like they see so much in their children. But yours wasn't a motherly look. It was more of a godly view, because you saw me as a man, as a human being. You saw my heart. You saw who I was, and I didn't even realize that that's who I was. So that's where we had an attraction. We argued a lot, right? But we went through school together, and then I started getting serious. And when I started getting serious, I kept upping my Hindu rituals, because I was trying to figure out if you're the one. And then one day, and you know the story, one day I was sitting in this little place that we were renting up close to Monterey, California, which is a beautiful place, by the way. And I got tired of doing all these rituals, and I just kind of put this book down where you have to write these mantras and stuff, and I put the book down. And I essentially just closed my eyes, and I said, God, if you are who you are, or if you are true, if there's really a God, right? I just want to know the truth. I just want to know who it is.
Well, that was my prayer for you. It was very specific. When we started getting serious, I have, my sister or would tell me, like you guys don't have the same faith, and it's going to be really hard when things get serious. How are you going to raise your children? And I remember trying to convince her, like, well, they have similar values, like you don't lie, you don't kill. I was trying to convince her, and she was like, it's going to be really hard. And then I think for me, I think I was in a training or something that day, and had grad school at night. And you called me that morning and you're like, I was meditating, and were you like floating or something?
Yeah, I was levitating.
You were levitating, and that you said you saw your body like levitating.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm pretty sure your soul or your spirit's supposed to stay in your body. Like that was all. I was like, I was pretty sure that's how, like your spirit's not supposed to detach from you.
Yeah.
And then I hung up. Oh, well, I told you, wow, that's awesome. That sounds like a great like achievement or something. And then I hung up and I called my sister, who is a pastor's wife. And I told her, and she was like, no, we're going to pray for him right now. And I think at that time, I didn't even, my walk with the Lord was not the best. I think it was slow. But I knew that, like, I'm a Christian and I believe in God. And so I called her, and she was like, we're going to start praying for him. And this overwhelming emotion of urgency, almost, of like my heart was crying out, like, and the prayer was, Lord, I just want him to seek the truth.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and maybe it's bad, but like it wasn't, Lord, help him be a Christian, help him believe in you, help him. And maybe it should be that way, but it wasn't. It was very like, Lord, help him seek the truth.
Yeah.
Because I can see you seeking in all the wrong areas.
What made you pray that prayer? It was just a desire?
It was supernatural.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was like a worry for you.
Yeah.
Or anything, because I don't think at that time I knew how serious it was, or it can be, but it was a very supernatural desire to pray for you, and I think I prayed throughout the training on my drive to school that night. I was praying, and I kept crying, and now thinking about it, I don't think I was thinking anything bad, but it was just very intense. And then got to school, and that was it. And then I don't think I thought about it again.
It was like a spiritual thing.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then we sat down for dinner, and you told me, okay, if we're gonna take the next step, then
Yeah.
do you remember that?
Yeah, I told her that, I told you that if we're going to take the next step, then the kids are going to be Hindus, is what I told you. Mm-hmm. Right? And you just said yes. I mean, I do have to say, you broke a few rules, or maybe man-made rules, but like you broke a few rules dating me, because
I did.
in the Christian circles, it's not like a thing.
Yeah, because you're like, you want to date a Christian,
Yeah.
a believer,
Right.
and I don't think, I just knew in my heart that they are not going to be Hindus. Like, that's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
But I played the game. I said, sure,
Yeah.
as if you were going to win.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but I knew that wasn't, even when I said sure, it was more of, I think it was more strategic on my end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you definitely didn't marry a Hindu.
No, I dated one.
Yeah.
But
you
I did
dated
marry one.
Yeah. So afterwards, we went to that one camp. I call it a Christian boot camp.
Well, that Christian boot camp was,
You are calling it a Christian boot camp as well.
well, it's not a Christian boot
Yeah,
camp.
I recoined it to a Christian boot camp. But
Well, I think, were you using a lot at that time?
I was starting to slow down. So the issue
Because
was
you were never high with me.
I was never high with you, right? So I would like escape or have remember, no date nights. Sometimes no date
that
nights
was it. Because you told me this is our break day.
well, no, break day was no drinking or hanging out with
Okay.
my friends.
Okay.
There were times where I would go to Sacramento, right?
You did.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
No. So I would use, and it came to, I think when we were dating, the most I used was like twice in 1 year. The
Okay.
problem was I was having this mental battle.
What battle?
Like I couldn't quit, right? Like I wanted to quit because I wanted to do, like I felt responsible because I'm dating you and we're getting serious, right? And I want my kids to be Hindu. Honestly, this is what my thoughts were. And I'm like, there's no way I can be, I can have a family and sustain this lifestyle. It just came to an understanding that there's no way, right? And that was when I actually even believed, like I was like, if I have kids, like I didn't even know if I could have even kids. So yeah, I went to that Christian camp, your family.
Well, before that, though,
Yeah,
you before that you got a DUI.
I did.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so that was
That was a wake up call,
a red flag for me.
right?
Because it was a Wednesday night. We had plans to see each other Friday,
Yep.
and we're about an hour and a half away from each other at
Yep.
that time, right? And so I get a call from you at the jail,
Yep.
and at 7:30 or something, and it says Rahul Pillay, county jail.
No, it doesn't say Rahul Pillay. You just got a collect call.
No, it was your voice because you
Oh,
had to
my
say
voice
your
on
name.
the phone. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, and then I found out that you got a DUI,
Yep.
and I asked you, why are you here, like in my county?
Yeah.
And you said I wanted to surprise you,
Yep. I lied. Yep.
and you did mention like you were drinking,
Yeah.
and then to drive up and surprise me, and I thought that was weird. And I think it was finals week that week for me in school, and I stayed up all night worrying about you. Picked you up the next day, and then went to go get your car. I never told you this actually. When you went to go get your car, I looked at your phone, and I did see the text between you and your dealer.
Yeah.
And it was in languages it's in English, but it was like a different person texting this guy. And it was in, words that an 8-ball or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with those terms, but I couldn't really understand it. But it was very like street, or like,
Yeah.
you sounded very
Street.
ghetto.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recognize it.
Yeah.
But I put your phone away, and then just kind of put that in the back of my mind and I don't think at that time I knew how much you were using or how long you've been using.
Yeah.
Because I always seen you as very sober-minded.
Yeah.
A jerk sometimes, but sober-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was the DUI. That was a wake up call for me, and then essentially you invited me to this camp.
Yeah, so the same sister, I told her kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And she was like, you and Rahul should come join us for the camp.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. Anyways, there was some issues that you weren't supposed to go because of your weekend work programs, but then it got moved and you were able to go. And that was life-changing.
That was awesome. Now that I look back, at the time it was a little freaky. But we went up to this camp, and there were these people praying, and it's like my first introduction to how Christians behave.
I warned you though. I told them it might be bizarre.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was new to me. But I think that was when I had, and I was still very, very. I had my own intentions because I noticed that these people were having some encounters with Jesus, and I was like, well, whoever's in here has some power, right? And in Hinduism, it's like a thing, like there's many gods and some of them have powers. And I was like, whoever it is, maybe they can tell me if I'm going to marry the girl, right? And I bowed down to pray or ask if that was the question. And before I could even ask, like somebody prayed for, I don't know what happened, but I fell to the ground. And when I fell to the ground, I just knew in my heart that I'm going to marry you. And that was the time when they prayed with me but the best thing that happened, of course I had some confidence, right? But then of course the mind kicks in and it's like, well, how is this going to work? Or what's going to happen? What about your mom? What about your religion? What about what you've been taught since birth? But I appreciated my brother-in-law now, Thomas, right? But at the time, he asked me a question that was so monumental for my life because he said, what would you obviously felt something in there. And he's like, what would you do? What is your response? What was his question?
What are you going to do now?
What are you going to do now? What is your response? Right. And I was like, well, I don't really know. And he goes, well, wouldn't you at least check it out more? And I felt in my heart like a responsibility. Mm-hmm. I was like, whoever this is that gave me the message that this is going to be my wife, the minimum I could do is figure out who he is or she is or whatever he is, right? And then we went back home. We went on with our lives. We were in Union City at the time, and this is the miraculous part is we went to a local church. It was just the closest one in Google, right?
Yeah, we did. And I started going first.
Right.
Because you had to finish up your weekend work program.
Right.
And then when you were done with that, you joined me at that church. Can you tell them when, because you were battling it, you had Bible study with an assistant pastor there for weeks.
Yeah.
And I think this part was where it was hard for me because I'm seeing, okay, it's going to happen. Like you are going to know God, right? And every part of me was like, I want to be the one that gets you your first Bible. Right. I want to know how Bible study went with Juan, right? Yeah. And I want to know. And I think there was a voice in me that just says, like, just be still. Yeah. Like, know that I'm God.
Yeah.
And I had to step back and let you have your own journey with him without me.
Yeah.
And it was hard because I was getting excited, and but I resisted. I let you do your thing, and I don't think I knew up until the day that you got baptized. I had no idea. I never asked about the Bible studies. Mm-hmm. I wanted to, but I didn't.
Yeah. And yeah, brother Juan, he did Bible studies with me, and I remember. And the reason for the Bible studies was because I was still, like, I appreciated the teachings at church. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to do anything with Jesus, right? and I accepted the Bible study mainly to kind of figure out, it was an interior motive to understand what Christianity is about, so I can convince you how Hinduism is the right way.
Yes, and that our kids were going to be Hindus.
Yeah, so that was the intention. And he kept doing these Bible studies, and he came to a point where he asked me probably the most profound question that anybody's asked me. And he said, let's just ask you a simple question. He said, if God was an apple tree, right, then what would the apples be, right? Like, what would they be? And I was like, well, what would the fruit be? And I said, would it be apples? I guess, so he goes, well, why couldn't God have a son, right? And that question really opened up my mind, because my question then was, if God is a tree or works like a tree, and if he has a child or a son, who is that son? Like, is Jesus that son? Because everybody kept talking about Jesus to me, right? Your family did. When I went to church, they did. But I did not want to accept this Jesus. And the question that came up in my mind was, could Jesus truly be the Son of God? Because if he is the Son of God, then he is God, right? Because apple trees don't produce bananas. That was the logic in my head. So I went to church the next week, and there was a little bit of also this kind of maybe ego, but like, I did not want to be convinced.
Yeah.
I did not want to be sold on Jesus. I didn't.
Yes.
I felt like this is. So that's why I appreciated you not pushing me or doing anything, because when you go to church, some people are that way. And frankly, thank God, nobody was that way. I was in church. I was standing. There was worship music playing, and I just looked down, and I looked up, and immediately it was just me in this room, right? And it was in church, but I had an open vision of Jesus walk down from heaven, and there was light behind him. I couldn't even see his face. There was so much light, and my heart filled with love, and I just, when I saw him, I was like, "You are God," and he said, "I will take care of everything." Because
What were you worried about at that time?
well, I knew the consequences. I'm going to leave Hinduism. I'm going to upset some people. I'm not going to be the kid that I was known to be, right? And I was very religious as a young boy. So leaving all that, it was a sacrifice per se. So if I'm going to leave all that, which was I was taught, I needed to have evidence and confirmation that Jesus truly is the Son of God. And the evidence that he gave me is beyond what this world can give you, right? That open vision, nobody can take away from me.
No, and I think your journey to knowing him, like, even if now somebody come and try to convince you to go back to Hinduism, they can't.
No, because the prayer you had, I pray that he seeks the truth, is like still evident till this day, So we tend to
Now, then you seek the truth about everything.
everything.
Where I'm spending my money, what I'm doing.
Where am I spending my money?
Yeah,
How's the businesses working? How am I, how to be more just everything around life is, I've just learned to ask God for help.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Do you, anything else you want to share before we?
Well, the only thing I would say is, if this is true, would you not want to check it out? This as in not Pillay Place, but this as in Christianity and Jesus being Lord.
Mm-hmm. And I think if there is, if you're curious or even contemplating if you should give your life to God and say, "Yes, Lord, like I want to follow you." If you're just a tad bit contemplating, I think I would ask the question, what is really stopping you?
Yeah.
What is really
And what I've noticed about God is in my search for the truth,
mm-hmm.
he was never afraid of questions.
No, and
Like I was like, I want evidence, and he provided it.
and he was never pushy.
No,
he let you do it at your own pace.
that's right.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we hope you subscribe, and welcome to the Pillay Place.